Week 6 is shaping up to be a fun week for fantasy football. The waiver wire is a little bit deeper. We're getting some injuries that's making things interesting for the news. That might be bad for your fantasy team, but at least it's something to look at from day to day and pay attention to on Friday's injury reports and Saturday's injury reports. But Derek Carr's out with an injury. Up comes Spencer Rattler, starting, making his first ever NFL start. And there's a lot to unpack here. He may not be a look for you in fantasy football in 1QB leagues, but he's a player to pay attention to because he's going to impact other players. And there's a lot of upside here. And there's a storyline behind him that you may want to look at. But before we dig in today and do this deep dive, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're doing deep dives on as many players as possible on the daily. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players. We're also using these videos to help you set your lineups. Tomorrow we'll drop the must start video to let you know which players to start, sit, whatever by looking at the matchups, and you can ask your questions in that video so we can answer them. Click that button, stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching, don't disappoint him. But Spencer Rattler's getting his first ever NFL start, and that is a big deal. That is a huge deal right now because we're in week 6. He's getting his first crack at the NFL, and this might be his only crack. And if he plays well, we're going to have some interesting conversations this offseason and going forward. Spencer Rattler's a player that you got to pay attention to. He's just not some late round rookie. He's a player a lot of people are paying attention to. We don't have any snaps on the season. We're making our first career start against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home, which is very interesting in its own right. And we're going to deep dive that matchup too. But coming out of high school, 5-star recruit, big time prospect, coming out of high school, top quarterback in his class, top 10 overall. Everybody was paying attention to him. He had a lot of moxie coming out of high school. He looked the part, acted like the part. We get to Oklahoma, that second year there, 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. We just blow up. We go off. Looks like a first-round pick. People were talking first-round pick. We get to that next season. That was going to be his final year, and he was supposed to blow up, take things over, but things get dicey. Caleb Williams has to take over, and he's on the outs. This is when his stock completely tanks, and he drops off a cliff, and everybody's wondering if he'll ever make it to the NFL. We get to South Carolina. Things get kind of quiet, but we're starting to make plays. It's up and down. It's a little volatile, but we're making things happen. Back-to-back seasons with over 3,000 yards. Not the sexiest, not the greatest, but coming from a downfall at Oklahoma, where the world's at your fingertips, where you're the next great quarterback. That's everybody saying that about you in the media. To next thing you're out, and you gotta really dig yourself back up at South Carolina in the SEC, and you do so. You come back, you start doing it. You're looking good here. Your ADOT is looking okay. Your adjusted completion rate has been great throughout your entire career. And remember that game you got benched for Caleb Williams against Texas in the first half. Caleb Williams looked great in that game. Go back and look at that one. That was a great game to watch. But what if the culprit here is Lincoln Riley? What if he's the culprit here? Because Spencer Rattler bottomed out then, was not looking good game to game. We were wondering what was going on. If you remember prior to that situation, Caleb Williams comes in, goes to USC with Lincoln Riley, gets drafted in the first round, and he's starting to look good with the Bears. But we get to this point, very similar to Spencer Rattler, where we're losing games, we're throwing picks, we're missing reads here, and you can say some other things, like the whole offense wasn't great, the weapons this and that, but there's leadership here as well, and there's things to look at here as well, and this is a very good quarterback, and we can say he's a very good quarterback because he's getting it done at the NFL level. What if there's more untapped potential is what I'm saying with both these two quarterbacks, and what if this is what we're looking at with Spencer Rattler, and maybe the damaged goods from Lincoln Riley here is the reason why he fell in the draft, lost his stock, and now he has to dig himself back up, and he's actually the guy he was touted as. Maybe not, but when we get to training camp, mini camp, and OTAs, he's looking good. He's looking the part. We went over the clips. We watched him. He was looking solid. We get in preseason, we're looking good. We're looking all right. I had to run right after his performance in preseason and drop the video saying, hey, watch out for Spencer Rattler. He's probably going to get an opportunity sometime down the line in the 2024 season as a rookie. I'm not expecting him to push Derek Carr or anything like that, but he's got some upside to his game. He's a player that climbed his way back up. He's a player with a lot of heart, because it takes a lot of heart to experience that and still get drafted at the NFL level. I had to do that, and he's been looking good throughout his time here with New Orleans. I may have to go over all the clips, all the training camp clips with you, all the minicamp OT. I may have to do that again right before this game so you know. And he's got weapons. Rashid Shaheed's been looking good. 26% target share, downfield threat. Alvin Kamara in the outlet, really getting the ball in the flat, can get you yards in space. Chris Olave, he's been talking about Chris Olave in the media and say, hey, when you got a guy like that, you got to push on the ball. And Chris Olave downfield. And the one thing Spencer Rattler likes to do, keep his eyes downfield and sling the rock. And he's aggressive with the football. And he's got the cast of characters around him for him to do that with his game. For him to do that. And this might be the cast of characters to wake him up, to allow him to emerge as a threat to Derek Carr, to allow him to be productive in the NFL, and maybe win the job for the long term. After all, we have immense talent. It may not be consistent, but the talent is there. You can't say he can't do anything in the NFL. You can't say that he can't. He's just been inconsistent throughout his career. Might be a little bit damaged from what we've seen at Oklahoma, but we can also say he's got a lot of heart to climb himself back up, to get back on that horse, to get to this point. To get to this point after what we've seen is a big win for him. And now we get to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Low over-under here at 41, and that's Spencer's in. They don't know what to do with this. They don't know what's going to look like for this matchup. They don't know if they're just going to run a little bit more. Plays are going to be ran slower. It could hit the over if he hits. It could hit the under. He could throw 5 picks in this game. That could happen. That could very well happen. That could very well happen because he's a rookie. We've seen his downside. That downside is there. But we've also seen the upside. He's good in the pocket. He can make guys miss. He can throw it downfield while on the run. He can do all that stuff. He can do all the flashy stuff. But we can also see the inconsistencies there. We can call a spade, but we can also call a spade when we're looking at the good stuff as well. And we're looking at this matchup. The Buccaneers are second in the NFL when it comes to allowing fantasy points to quarterbacks. That's a good thing to know. But the quarterbacks that are doing well against them, Jaden Daniels, not so much in the passing department. First ever game, 88 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Kirk Cousins last week had his coming out party really with 500 passing yards. We're looking at Bo Nix, 216 yards against him. Prior to this, Bo Nix, it wasn't looking great, but he was looking good as a manager. He looked better as a manager in this matchup, and they got the win against him. Jared Goff, 307 yards. Jalen Hurts lost his wide receivers. He lost his wide receivers. What do you think it would look like if he had his wide receivers in that matchup, Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown? What would that look like in that matchup? Of course, it wasn't going to look good there. These numbers would be even more elevated. They'd be ranked number 1. They'd be number 1 if Jalen Hurts had either A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith to roll with, but they didn't. They didn't. So this is an advantageous situation for Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler could go off here, or it could be nasty and ugly. That could potentially happen. So you don't need him because you're in a 1 QB league. Why take the risk? Why stash? There's no true point with that. Derek Carr is going to be back. You know this. You don't need to stash him. However, you want to stash for upside. You're in a 2 QB league. You're in a deeper league. That's when you're going to look at Spencer Rattler. But you also need to watch him. You need to watch him for the long term. You need to watch him if you're in a dynasty league, especially in rookie drafts. I said to draft them in the final picks in 2 QB. I said to do that. I said to pay that premium because those guys in the middle rounds, a lot of them are not going to do anything. And he's got that quarterback stock to where once he starts seeing the field, good, bad, or ugly, that price is going to increase. And if you don't like him, you could sell. And if not, you can just enjoy the ride. If you like him, you can enjoy the ride. But if you want out, you can sell right now and get a little return on your investment. And you got something out of your draft pick right there, because that's going to happen in 2 QB leagues and Dynasty. People will go over the moon for the quarterbacks. People will overpay, and then you can get something out of him on the trade market. But with Spencer Rattler, I see this, and this is where the take is. You had to wait a long time in the video because I had to tell the story. I think it's 50-50. He's either going to go to the moon or he's going to go to hell. Hell meaning a lot of picks, a lot of mistakes, not looking good. What we saw in the down moments at South Carolina and in that last bit of Oklahoma, we could be seeing that here. However, also what we've seen throughout his career is big-time playmaking ability, getting the ball downfield, a rocket arm, maneuvering the pocket well. If we can tap into that, especially for a bunch of series in this matchup, we can see him go to the moon. We got the pieces there to help him out, but we don't know what we're going to get. This is a box of chocolates situation here. We're Forrest Gump. We're wondering what we're going to get, but it's Spencer Rattler. It's going to be fun to watch, and he's a player to root for. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.